This is Let Us Interrupt You, episode 80, here on Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. I am Joseph Olivo. There is no Mike today. As you all know, he works on Tuesday, so he cannot do the show. But I am going to just be doing it solo for Tuesdays. I've already mentioned this once. What a weekend for football. That's all I got to say about that. What a weekend for football here, especially for week 2 action. I did finish up with a 9-7 record for all my picks. I mean, it's not great, but, it's right in that ballpark right now of a winning record after the picks I made over the weekend. I will start with the picks that I lost. I lost the Bears-Packers pick. I lost the Commanders-Lions pick. I lost the Colts-Jaguars pick. I lost the 49ers-Seahawks pick. That's not the only thing that was lost over the weekend. I'll get into that later on. I lost the Bengals-Cowboys pick, and I lost the Cardinals-Raiders pick. I think there's only 4 games I think I mentioned there, or 5 or 6 games I mentioned or whatever. But yeah, I did lose some picks here. And I also lost the Patriots-Steelers pick. I should probably mention that too, because I didn't pick my Patriots to beat the Steelers over the weekend. I might as well start with that game, because that's really one of the games of the weekend right now that we talked about. What a disappointing game, though. That I will say. And the tagline after this game, on the article here by the Associated Press, New England, don't panic. It doesn't matter the year, the opponent, or even the quarterback. And I look at it like this. It kind of does, because Trubisky sucks. There's no other way of putting it. The Patriots defense played great in this game. That's pretty much the impressive thing out of this. They got 3 sacks out of him. Mac Jones, played decent. He played good. He didn't play great. He didn't play he played good. No, he played good. It is what it is. It's just, I'm laying it down thick. The guy's making some throws that are questionable. He's tossing up in the air. He's throwing dimes in the air that are going to the wrong opponent, or really just overthrowing it by a lot. And when he's trying to get to Devontae Parker, well, he can't get open. Devontae Parker, and I said this to my cousin before, the guy's useless. He's a useless wide receiver. That's why Miami didn't want him. And it's a good, easy trade partner for Miami, just simply because Miami's trying to pawn up their bad crap towards them, so it won't hold them back for the rest of the season. Devontae Parker, up to this point, I would say in the first 2 games, it's been targeted at least over 6 or 7, actually probably more than 6 or 7 times, probably about 9 or 10 times. 1 catch for 9 yards, and that's in 2 games. In my opinion, it's a fail. He's an F so far as a grade. I just think he's been pathetic at this point, not getting open, not busting a move here, trying to go for a comeback route, stop and curl flat, whatever they got to do to make things happen, running a flat route, running a route, cross route, try to get some separation. He can't do it. That's his problem. I thought other than that, you look at how the game pretty much started. It started out with Pittsburgh really going to 3-and-out. And then the Patriots driving it down the field for just a field goal here. Look, you got points out of it. That's great. But I think for a 13-play drive for 70 plus yards, you have to get a touchdown out of it or something. You started out from your own 20-yard line, for Christ's sakes. And it almost didn't even happen because Miles Bryant almost botched that one and almost got caught for his safety. I don't know how that was called a touchback. He started out from his 5, muffed the ball in the end zone. He muffed the ball like 2 or 3 times on that one punt return. And luckily enough, they realized at this point they should have been safety, these referees. These referees were looking around saying, no, it's a touchback. And maybe because the ball was spatted out of the end zone by a Pittsburgh player, punched out of the end zone. But at that point, you rule out a safety. I get if you're at the 1-yard line or the goal line at that point and that happens, but you're at the 5 to 6 yard line. And you're muffing it 3 different times. That means at this point, you've had at least somewhat of a possession with that ball. The next possession, Trubisky threw an interception to Jalen Mills. Mills in this game was actually pretty good on coverage. Not great, but he was pretty good. Mac Jones, right after that, went through an interception of his own. He was throwing it out there like he was Brett Favre out there, trying to throw his last Hail Mary in a fourth quarter. And I said to myself, why is Mac Jones trying to throw out dimes like that when he's not fully established yet to do that yet? It's like what Matt Patricia did with Matthew Stafford for most of his career in Detroit when he was coaching them there. And that's what I think the problem with Matt Patricia is that he's trying to, for Bill's sake, to create the next Drew Bledsoe and Mac Jones. He's not at that level. And Drew Bledsoe, as good as he was, he made tons of mistakes. He had tons of bad throws, but he was still a good quarterback. Mac Jones is not there yet. I'm just being honest. He played good. He did throw for 250 plus yards. I was surprised he threw for that much against that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Yes, they were without TJ Watt. Would have been different if TJ Watt was in the game. I don't think so. I think New England would have been able to figure it out. Team TJ Watt, especially if you got a guy coming in with a torn pec going into that game. And even when he was 100%, I mean, I've seen the Patriots just double team guys like Aaron Donald, double team guys like TJ Watt, double team guys like JJ Watt, double team guys like Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis. We've seen it hundreds of times before. And to me, it's just, I don't think it would have made a difference in this game. But Pittsburgh, I got to tell you right now, is not a good football team. They're not. I thought they would be, at least in the playoff conversation, because they got a game management quarterback because they're not ready to put in Pickett yet. But Trubisky sucks at that. I mean, he is holding himself back from doing too much, and it's costing the team the game. And when he tries to do too much, he makes tons of mistakes. And, Trubisky's not that good. I got to be honest. This Steelers team's not that good. George Pickett was probably drafted to the wrong team because realistically, I mean, after 2 games, I shouldn't be thinking that way. Maybe because it's not the right quarterback out there for him. But to be targeted like almost a half a dozen times at this point, and to come out of, or actually probably more than that, probably like around 12 or 13 times, and to come out of it for the last 2 games, 2 catches for 26 yards for a guy who was up for Rookie of the Year, it's not a good look. It's not a good look at all. But yeah, other than that, the Patriots won 17-14. The touchdowns were one to Nelson Aguilar for 44 yards, and you had Damian Harris running out after Gunnar Olszewski muffed the punt for Pittsburgh. We recovered it, and then New England scores down in the red zone. So that was the end of that drive there. Jets-Browns. All I got to say about this game was that it was, wow, Cleveland blew a home game. So that was my thought process behind that whole thing, is that, and this goes to show you how much week 1 was a fluke for Cleveland. Cleveland right now should be an 0-2 football team right now going forward. There's not a doubt about that in my mind. They lost this game, Cleveland. It's that simple. That defense could not handle Joe Flacco and his throwing ability. He was 26 for 44, 307 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Back-to-back weeks, by the way, he threw for 307 yards. And back-to-back weeks, he threw over 40 times. So what can I say about this really for the Jets? They should have signed Joe Flacco a long time ago. They should have Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback. Has Zach Wilson up to this point played at that particular level? I don't think he has. You should be watching Joe Flacco start. I don't know why they rushed to start Zach Wilson last season or even this past season here. Even in preseason, I just didn't get it. I'll highlight right to the 4th quarter of this game right now. Corey Davis got a 66-yard touchdown pass from Flacco. And then 60 seconds later, they recovered an onside kick. And then Garrett Wilson gets a 15-yard touchdown pass. The Jets win 31-30. Cooper did get his first touchdown as a Brown over the weekend with Brissett. This really was all about Nick Chubb running it. When it really comes down to it, when you have 3 rushing touchdowns and you have 17 carries for 87 yards, you're doing something right. The 3 touchdowns, they were short runs. Really, it was all about Brissett throwing the ball more in this game. I thought they could have cut down on that a little bit just to help out Chubb, build his fantasy stats, and maybe get over 100 yards rushing. I don't know. I'm just saying. They got Cooper in the game. I don't know how Sauce Gardner played against him. I think he played pretty crappy, halfway decent, really. Not the best performance out of Sauce Gardner, but good enough. Look, he allowed 9 catches in that game. It's not great. He should have tightened that up a little bit more so he won't get exposed like that again. Commanders-Lions, this game pretty much was a Carson Wentz field day versus Jared Goff field day. It was basically the rematch from 5 years ago with Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz did throw for 337 yards. He got 3 touchdowns and a pick. Goff had 2 for 34, 256 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. This was right here a quarterback duel in the making here, 2 weeks in a row here. Goff did more here. That was the difference in this time around here. And the defense of Detroit did more around. Aiden Hutchinson, 3 sacks in the game. Was incredible in this game. From start to finish, he was unstoppable as far as getting tackles and everything else. He was a man possessed out there. got to the quarterback so many times in this game. It was pathetic. I mean, the quarterback got hit like 20 times in this game and sacked for about 5 times in this game. Goff was only sacked 3 times in the game. All I got to say is if Wentz didn't throw that interception, the Commanders probably would have came back and won the game. Just put it out there. They were down 22-0. The Commanders were starting to rally a little bit more. Lions had a late touchdown in the end. Commanders had a late touchdown. They had a chance to recover an onside kick. Obviously didn't go their way. It really comes down to this factor for Washington is that after this game here, I'm still convinced right now their team is going to win the division. Did I think they're going to go undefeated to start the season out? I kind of did. I was wrong there. Even though I had them going 0-17, which I was also wrong about. So 2 weeks in a row, I'm wrong about the Commanders. I thought they were going to be winless, was wrong there. I thought they were going to start undefeated, was wrong there. They're playing Philadelphia now. This one Philadelphia who had an excellent game against the Vikings last night. I'll get in that one later on. They were actually 2-0 officially, so that was one of my games I was wrong about. Wrong about the Vikings Eagles, really. I should have figured that Kirk Cousins sucks in prime time, but, I was wrong there. The spread for them is 6.5 next week in Washington. So should be interesting what Philadelphia does against Washington. And really, the question now is that can Washington overcome losing to Detroit? Is that going to get in their heads after this? I mean, we don't know. Tampa Bay, New Orleans, I would say this right now. The 2 most disappointing games out of the entire weekend was the Patriots-Steelers game and then this game right here. Brady did not play great in this game. Brady was immense with drama all week long. You heard the story about the wife crying in New York City. They got in a fight over the phone. Look, in reality, Giselle didn't get what she wanted. I don't know why she wanted Tom to retire. Unless there's some kind of big thing going on at Victoria's Secret runway show, and she was invited, and it was on a Sunday afternoon. Here's my question, and this actually drives me insane. Brady has the kids now, right? They go to the games now with the grandparents, right? Why does Brady need to retire and be a stay-at-home parent and her not to do this? The thing's called grandparents. This thing's called spend time with the grandparents on the weekends, right? I don't know what it's like in the Brady household at this point. I'm not sure why Giselle needs to retire this much. I don't know what the hell is going on in that family household. The fact they're trying to demolish their house in Tampa Bay is one thing because Brady was living there at the time. I don't know why they couldn't just sell it. I mean, maybe Giselle just didn't want any resemblance and reminders of what it was like with Tom Brady. I don't know what her issue is. I never thought Giselle to be the explosive Brazilian type of girl who just loses her cool. But apparently she is. And if I get offended for being racist for saying that because I said a central culture person, I apologize. But in reality, that's what she is. She's a girl that can't handle a temper. She's having a little temper tantrum. She's trying to get her way and try and make Tom Brady feel sad and feel sorry. What you're doing is you're destroying the guy's career. You're hurting the guy's season by torturing him. You're literally torturing the guy. And you're not even just torturing the guy. You're torturing the kids. You're torturing the grandparents. You're torturing your own family in Brazil, for Christ's sakes. You got to stop doing what you're doing. You're not making yourself look good, especially for Victoria's Secret, where they want you to be focused 24/7. That's a tree over there that wants you to be focused 24/7. Unless somehow she didn't get the gig, and that's why she was crying in New York, and that's what probably would happen, and that's what people were missing here. But I doubt it. I mean, this girl could cry and get what she wants. And cry almost every time. And I don't mean to sound like that towards Giselle, but it's just to the point now where you're hurting the guy's game. I mean, it got to the point, really, when you think about it right now, the game was 3-0 by halftime, and the Saints leading it. The Saints weren't playing that great either. This is really all about the Bucs defense in this game. I mean, when it really came down to it in the end of this game is that Brady got sacked once, but he got hit a lot in the game. Winston got sacked 6 times in the game. I mean, he nearly got injured again with his neck, with Devin White creating the exact same havoc and hitting him there. The Bucs, it seems like every time when they're on defense here, no matter how bad they play, like no matter how dumb they are with the careless penalties that they have in a game, I mean, it gets to a point where they can overcome it and still deliver a pain to their quarterback. They can sack him 5 or 6 times a game in New Orleans. And Tampa Bay has almost dominated almost every time defensively when they played New Orleans. And this is even before Tom Brady got there and played. Really, when it really comes down to it here, I mean, this was really all about the turnovers in this game. There was a lot of turnovers here. They had at least four fumbles in this game. There was 2 recovered. Brady fumbled at one point in the game late in the first half. As they were driving down the field. But Brady was just not himself in this game. Jameis Winston went back to his old self again, threw too many interceptions. He threw 2 to Jamel Dean. He threw a pick six to Mike Edwards, which sealed the deal, which gave Tampa Bay the win 20-10. Jameis Winston did throw a late touchdown to Michael Thomas. He tried getting another drive going by throwing a deep ball to Chris Olave. Olave fumbled. I don't know why he dropped the ball. I don't know why the ball rolled out of his hands. This by me. It was, I thought it was an incomplete pass realistically there, but when they ruled it a fumble and Tampa Bay recovered it, the game was over. So that was that. Giants Panthers here. All I got to say about this game was that once again, Baker Mayfield didn't do shit in this game to really make people convinced that he's the quarterback for this team. 2 straight losses with this guy at quarterback. He didn't turn the ball over, which is probably the only positive thing coming out of this whole thing is that he didn't turn the ball over in this game. Rami Anderson did have a fumble loss here. So did Hubbard. Mayfield did fumble at one point, but he was able to get his offensive line to recover it for him. This was really all about the Panthers in this game. It was all about the Panthers struggling in this game, and I think that's what the issue was going to say. Daniel Jones threw $176. That's it. Threw $176. Got sacked 3 times. Barkley had 21 carries for 72 yards in the game. Nothing really spectacular from him, really. It really didn't even matter because when it really came down to it in the end, I mean, as you look at the stats right now, with Richie James getting 5 catches for 51 yards, Sills getting 3 catches for 37 yards, and Shepard getting 6 catches for 34 yards. When it really comes down to it, it was about the Giants' defense in this game, just getting to Baker Mayfield, getting in his head. That's all it really came down to. I mean, if that did its job, which most of the time it did, then you got what you got out of it. And they got to Baker Mayfield a few times in this game. They did. So, I mean, they pressured the guy. He did not have any good offensive line protection all day long. And look, I mean, again, in reality, it does set the tone right now of how the season's going to go for the Panthers this year. They're not going to have a good year. They're probably going to lose this weekend to this New Orleans Saints. If we're going to be realistic here about the Saints this season right now, they will probably get some wins in there. The Panthers, I don't know. The Panthers and Falcons right now might be the 2 worst teams right now in their own division, which they lost over the weekend to the LA Rams 31-27. Game ended with a pick by Jalen Ramsey to seal the deal right now. They were driving down the field. Yes, the Falcons were driving down the field against Matthew Stafford and the Rams. Stafford did throw another 2 picks here. He's got 5 touchdowns this season and 5 interceptions this season right now. So Brett Favre-esque-like start of a season right now. Even with the interceptions or a little bit over with the interceptions, more than touchdowns. It's not a good sign for Matthew Stafford. I don't know what the procedure did this guy's arm, but he's not playing great. He's just not. He's resorted back to his old self, really, when he used to play in Detroit, and he was not that great in Detroit. That's a problem. Right out of the gate here, that's a problem. Especially if you're going to go in there against the Falcons of all teams. The Falcons, who 2 straight weeks in a row have scored over 20-plus points. And this team, who kind of looks like a team that's going to go 0-17, at least they're scoring points out of it. That's all I can say. They're going down swinging in this whole thing. They know their defense sucks. They know they can't stop anybody. They were down as much as 28-3 in this game. 28-3, the Falcons were down as. And they managed to outscore their opponent 24-3 in the second half. And the Rams played actually decently well, good defense. They didn't really allow too much in this game. When it really comes down to it, in the end of the day, it came down to the fact that they just had too many mistakes on the offensive side of the ball. That's it. Cooper Kupp fumbled. He lost a fumble in the game. Then you had the 2 interceptions by Matthew Stafford. It just was not a good game. It was not a good game for the Rams, especially defensively in the second half of this game with the turnovers. They couldn't capitalize on it. Allen Robinson got his touchdown reception from 1 yard out from Stafford. And he got an 8-yard run from Henderson Jr. You got a 3-yard touchdown pass from Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp got another touchdown pass again. Cooper Kupp was actually pretty good in this game. He was. I probably should have given the stats in this game for the other games, really. But this game was interesting here. But Stafford did throw for 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 272 yards throwing. Kupp had 11 catches for 108 yards. Drake London had 8 catches for 86 yards for the Falcons and a touchdown. The only thing the Falcons couldn't do was run in the game. That was it. I mean, they had a hard time with that. As a team, they ran for 90 yards, which isn't bad. It was on 27 carries. But the Rams defensively, though, Aaron Donald did not do much in this game. If anything, he was barely even talked about in the game at all. And that's shocking against that Atlanta Falcons bad offensive line. Wagner was actually pretty good in this game. He was actually a little bit better than he should have been in this game. And he actually had some help with some tackles there. He had 3 tackles solo, meaning, all him. But when it really came down to it, it was all about Fuller and Jones that made a difference in this game. Without those 2 guys in the game, I don't know if the Rams would have won this game. They were the enforcers in this game. They made things happen. They made a statement. And you also have Hollins in that game as well. Between Hollins, Fuller, and Jones, that's what you need along with Wagner and Donald. Because if it's just those 2 guys, Wagner, who I think is, like I said before, a little bit past his prime. Not by much, but past his prime a little bit. And you also got Aaron Donald, who I'm going to tell you right now, he ain't going to go past his prime until he's 40, the way he plays. But it seemed like yesterday he came out flat yesterday. Or not yesterday, Sunday. Like, it didn't do anything for me, So we'll see what happens with that game here, really. Jaguars Colts. This was basically the Trevor Lawrence show. Not much to tell there. 235 yards, 25 for 30 passes. Probably his best game he's played as a Jacksonville Jaguar at home at this point. James Robinson had 23 carries for 64 yards and a touchdown. Christian Kirk had 2 touchdowns in the game from Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has got a new buddy in Christian Kirk. 10-yard touchdown pass, a 5-yard touchdown pass. That's all she wrote. Matt Ryan couldn't do anything, threw 3 interceptions. Too many mistakes from the Indianapolis Colts for them to come back from. Bad defensive play all the way around here. A little pedestrian play from the Colts defensive line, honestly. And really no Shaquille Leonard here. That was another problem in this game. Gilmore played great in this game, coverage-wise. Other than that, besides allowing the 2 touchdowns to Christian Kirk, which, by the way, he was the one who covered Christian Kirk, unfortunately. But, yeah, he played it the best he could in this game. For what you had to do here. And I think, honestly, the Colts are kind of frauds right now at this point. No offense, but they are. Matt Ryan, kind of fraudish. That comeback was it really a really good comeback, even though it ended in a tie. And now this week you go out here against Jacksonville, throw 3 interceptions, and you fumble on top of it. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. It's not a good look for you. It's not a good look for the Colts at this point. Defensively, without Shaquille Leonard right now, I think this team revolves around Shaquille Leonard and what he does defense to pump this team up. It's like Von Miller with Buffalo. He completely turned that whole team around. It's unfortunate. It's sad. It sucks. But yeah, that's just it is what it is. Dolphins Ravens. Now, if anyone will go on my Facebook, you can go ahead and look at my news feed. It's under Joseph Alvo. I posted about this game as of yesterday. I was in Dunkin' Donuts typing the article out. When you're down 21 points, like Tua was yesterday, twice in this game, and to come back and win, I just got to say it was a fantastic game. Game of the year, in my opinion. Nothing's stopping this game. Unless somehow we have 2 31-point deficits and a team comes back and wins that one, I just can't see how this one stopped. This was a playoff game yesterday. Sunday. But this was an unbelievable game. Dolphins, by the way, outscored their opponent in the second half 35-10 in the second half. 28 of the points came in the fourth quarter. This was incredible. That's all I got to say. This was incredible. This was an incredible comeback, and I'll give you the highlights for it. Kickoff return for 103 yards for Devin Duvernay, putting the Ravens up 7-0. Later on, in the second quarter, Jalen Waddle catches a 6-yard touchdown pass from Tua. Rashad Bateman catches a 75-yard pass from Lamar Jackson, going in untouched. Mark Andrews gets a catch, ruled a touchdown initially, but it was down by contact. Mark Andrews later on got the 1-yard touchdown pass. DeMarcus Robinson got a 12-yard touchdown pass from Lamar Jackson, making it 28-7 before the end of the half. His only catch in the game. Mike Gillespie opened up the start of the second half of the Dolphins right now, 28-14, touchdown pass from Mike Gillespie from 14 yards out. Lamar Jackson later on got a 79-yard run, puts the Ravens back on 21, 35-14. Later on, Carcraft got a 2-yard pass from Tua. Tyreek Hill gets a 48-yard touchdown pass. Hill again with a 60-yarder. Justin Tucker with a field goal kick, and then Waddle again with a 7-yard touchdown pass from Tua. His 6th touchdown of the day, besides the 2 picks there. Dolphins get the win 42-38. Listen to the stat right here for Tua. 36 for 50, 469 yards. I'm not kidding here. Against this Raven defense, 469 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Morrison had 11 carries for 51 yards, and Tyreek Hill had 11 catches for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle had 11 catches for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. The first time a trio has done this in the same game since 1984 with over 11 catches over 100 yards plus. It's insanity. Lamar Jackson had 21 for 29, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He basically carried the team in this game. He had 9 carries for 119 yards for 1 touchdown. The team altogether had 155 yards on the ground. 119 of them came from Lamar Jackson. That's it. The rest of them combined to get 36 yards. Rashad Bateman had 4 catches for 108 yards in the game and a touchdown. Mark Andrews had, I believe Mark Andrews had 9 catches for 104 yards and a touchdown. By the way, I think this is maybe the first time that it's ever happened in the same game with 2 different opponents. So I don't know if that's a historical fact right now, if it happened before with 2 opponents before this, but this was game of the year right here. This was a playoff atmosphere football game. I thought at first it wasn't. As it started out right now, I thought to myself, okay, but as it built, and the Miami comeback was coming, and it was coming, and it was coming, it felt like a playoff game that determined who was going to go to the Super Bowl. That's what I was watching this game this Sunday, because I thought it was amazing from start to finish. Game of the day, game of the week, game of the year, right here. And I can't tell you right now at this point, who's going to be the MVP, because the odds right now are insanity right now at this point. It's insanity of how much the odds are. I mean, I'll give you the odds right now because I have it right here on my phone. It's incredible, really, when you think about it, really. It's incredible of how much this actually, came out like after this game yesterday. And the odds were right there in front of us. They were, which I thought I had the odds right here on my phone. I guess I don't. And I know I posted a link on my phone, so I don't know what it's not here. Kind of sad. Anyway, I had the MVP odds in front of me on my phone. Apparently, I can't get that glitch, and I can't pull up my computer right now. It's not letting me load up the page. But yeah, but Tua and Lamar are in their own MVP race, in my opinion. It may come down to those two. They may be co-MVPs this year, and I said so in my Bleacher Report post as well. If you want, go ahead and look at that one. It's J. I Loves Sports. I believe that's the account name. For whatever reason, some people are saying it's Loves Girls. I did change that, so I don't know why I keep telling that. Anyway, but yeah, this was a game of the year as far as I'm concerned. A huge runaway for game of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if this game wasn't top right now. People saying right now, well, you got the Packers Buccaneers, and you also got the Chiefs Buccaneers. No, this felt like a playoff game. Watching this game. This felt like an AFC either division round or AFC title preview of what this game is going to turn into here. And if it happens again in Baltimore, if Tua can do the exact same thing again, so be it. But this was incredible. This was an incredible game yesterday by Tua to throw for 6 touchdowns yesterday against that Raven defense. And the Ravens defense was good. That's what gets me. They only allowed 9 points last week. This week they've allowed 42 here. I don't know how you go from a swing like that, especially when you're facing 2 AFC East opponents and one of them you're at home against. I just thought that was weird. The whole thing about it was just weird. So, again, they were good in this game. Excellent game yesterday. I'm shocked. That's all I got to say. I'm shocked about this game. So I already went over the Falcons-Rams game. I'll give you the finals of the rest of these games because I'm not going to get through a lot here, really. 49ers-Seahawks. 49ers win 27-7. Cowboys beat the Bengals 20-17. Broncos beat the Texans 16-9. Cardinals beat the Raiders in overtime, and the Raiders were up 23-0, 29-23. Out of all these games, really, the only thing you really need to know here is Trey Lance is done for the year. He broke his ankle. He had to get Carr off the field and put his ankle in an air cast. I guess it was on a running play, and I guess Kyle Shanahan went on record saying, I'm so sorry for this. You played your ass off. That's according to Peter King in his article on NBC Sports, Sportsnet on the website. And Kyle Shanahan said he doesn't regret that call. I guess. And he would have made that call with any quarterback, really, with a quarterback sneak, really. But Lance is really a gadget quarterback that's got a great arm. Okay. The problem with him is that he doesn't know how to manage it. That's the problem. And that's why, really, it hurt him in the end. And it sucked because I had a bad feeling about this guy losing his job. I didn't think it was going to go out like that. But I just thought realistically here, and that was another game I was wrong about, by the way. I was wrong about the 49ers game. I was wrong about the Cowboy game. I was wrong about the Vikings Eagles game. So you can imagine 6 or 7 losses ain't going to do great for me. But I did come out with a winning record out of it. But yeah, 49ers basically dominated this game defensively. They weren't really allowing too much right now in this game. Geno Smith, 24 for 30, 197 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Got sacked twice, which I was surprised he only got sacked twice in this game. So that's what surprised me. Lockett had 9 catches for 107 yards. DK Metcalf had 4 catches for 35 yards. His value and his play is declining with him at quarterback. I don't know how it's getting good with Lockett, but it's declining with Metcalf. So I don't know if Metcalf's starting to fall off a cliff a little bit, maybe with this guy at quarterback, and maybe Lockett's taking over the number 1 position. DK Metcalf's going to be transitioning down as the number 2 guy. I don't know, but just the way this game played out on Sunday for the Seahawks, I thought was kind of bizarre. Garoppolo in the game was 13 for 21, 154 yards and a touchdown. Only got sacked once in the game. Debo did not do much in the game running-wise. He was 4 carries for 53 yards. Wilson had 18 carries for 84 yards. The team as a whole ran the ball 45 times, and he got 189 yards out of it and 2 touchdowns. Garoppolo and Juszczyk were the ones that got the rushing touchdowns in the end. As a whole here, Hufanga played a pretty good game. Greenlaw played a pretty good game. Much of a come down here for Hufanga here, but still had a solid performance. Greenlaw had a solid performance. Warren had a solid performance. Bosa had a pretty good performance. He had the 2 sacks and 2 tackles for a loss and 5 quarterback hits in the game. He came after the quarterback. That's really what it comes down to here. I mean, you had the quarterback 9 times in the game. You got to rough him up a little bit. But yeah, Geno Smith was good in this game. Other than that, there really wasn't much else to tell there with that game other than interception throw by Geno Smith, which I believe happened. I don't know, was it early in the game that happened? Yeah, it happened early in the game. So it happened right around. It was by Taj Gibson. It was really just great coverage. I mean, it was basically what it really comes down to right now. 2 cities working together and sealing the deal there. All you need to know about Cooper Rush in this game is that he's for real. He's 2-0 right now. He beat Joe Burrow. Cowboys are up as much as 17-3 in this game. The Bengals tried to rally for a comeback, and Brett Moore hit a 50-yard field goal as time expired. Cooper Rush went 19 for 31, 235 yards and a touchdown. Joe Burrow didn't even reach 200 yards in this game. He struggled a lot. Got sacked again 6 times in the game. 13 sacks this season allowed this year by that Cincinnati offensive line. And for an offensive line, it was hyped up because they got 3 new offensive linemen. To allow 13 sacks in 2 straight weeks, to me, I just think that's kind of embarrassing. I thought it was pathetic. I mean, you're allowing 13 sacks for a combined loss of 79 yards. That's what you're allowing if you're Cincinnati here, and that's a problem. They couldn't run either, so that's what makes it even worse. T. Higgins had 6 catches for 71 yards in the game and a touchdown. Jamar Chase had 5 catches for 54 yards and no touchdowns for him. He was targeted over 9 times Sunday in that game. The team as a whole ran for the ball 25 times for 89 yards. Mixon got 57 yards of those things. The rest of them combined to get 32 yards. Was not a good game at all by any means necessary. Was not a good game. Texans Broncos. All I got to say about this game was that Russell Wilson struggled again. Russell struggled in this game. 14 for 31, 219 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He started the game out 3 for 14 in this game for 30 yards. That's all I can tell you. There was a point in this game, though, where it was a dumb sequence here on 31. He handed off to Andrew Beckett, who, by the way, if anybody doesn't know who that is, he's a tight end. And he hasn't run the ball in 8 years. He's not done a running play in 8 years. This was a Nathaniel Hackett call. And they were trying to go for a 59-yard field goal. They decided to let the play clock run down, go for a delay of game, and punt the ball away. Javonte Williams, by the way, who was averaging 6.8 yards rush per carry here, and basically almost 8 yards per carry almost every time at this point because he was running the ball like a maniac. Why you go for a fullback play, a sweep play with a fullback on top of it, to just then not getting down and lose 2 yards doesn't make any sense to me. The play call in this game was absolutely ridiculous here. This was bad play calling by any means. They're letting Russell Wilson out there just air it out there and see if anybody out there would get it. It's the Wild West out there when it comes to Nathaniel Hackett's play calling here. 2 weeks in a row, it leaves me scratching my head. Did Russell Wilson make the right thing here and leave Denver at this point? Was Pete Carroll right at this point and saying how he wasn't going to succeed in Denver? I mean, I don't know. What is Pete Carroll still in his head because he couldn't get the win in Seattle right now? Is that what the problem is? Because bottom line, this was a pretty bad game. Sutton had 7 catches for 122 yards in this game. No touchdowns, really. The only touchdown was in this game was Eric Sauber for 22 yards. There's a 50-yard field goal later on in the game. Here's what I don't get, though. You didn't want to go for a 59-yard field goal, but you wanted to go for a 64-yard field goal in Seattle, and here you nail a 50-yard field goal here. It's infuriating to me. I just think that Denver realistically doesn't have a really good head coach. Did it make a mistake of getting rid of Vic Fangio way too soon? No, because I think Vic Fangio would have been worse with this team. This team would be an 0-2 start right now, probably going 0-3 and 0-4 because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing with a quarterback anyway. Nathaniel Hackett here was supposed to be this offensive guru for Aaron Rodgers here. Maybe he, I don't know. Maybe deep down he wants Aaron Rodgers to be here and not Russell Wilson. I don't know. It was bad, and I would understand if it was bad weather. There was no bad weather in this game. It was just bad play calling by Nathaniel Hackett, who I think realistically should be relieved of his duties of play calling here because he is an absolute horrible game caller here. And especially for an elite quarterback like Russell Wilson. I don't understand why. And this guy was almost an MVP last season. Or not last season, I'm sorry. Back in 2019. I just think that was weird. That's all. And Josh McDaniels basically failed in his game against Arizona. They lost in overtime. Murphy had a 59-yard overtime fumble return. Hunter Renfrow fumbled twice in this game in the same drive. This was a bad game all the way around. It was a terrible game. The Cardinals struggled in this game to start with. Let's just start off with that. But he was much better here later on in the game. Kyler Murray actually ended up going 31 for 49 for 267 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Derek Carr went 25 for 39, 252 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was not a good game for Derek Carr, though, by any means. It wasn't. And to be up by 23 points in this game, be up 23-0, and to allow Arizona to come back. By the way, you're at home with the lead. And I'm just scratching my head thinking, like, what the hell just happened, right? It was terrible in this game, right? It was a terrible game. And all the way around, I mean, I'm looking back on it now and I'm thinking, Kyler Murray looked like the clutchest quarterback in the NFC West. He looked more clutch than Matthew Stafford does right now. That's kind of hard to believe. That's really kind of hard to believe at this point. That he are going to go in there clutch on the road in Las Vegas to force overtime, really. You got the touchdown late in the game. You got the 2-point conversion. And then the defense was able to help you out. Now, I think either way you could have looked at it right now. The play call for Cliff Kingsbury wasn't really that great. It was kind of questionable at best. So was Josh McDaniels. They're both not looking good. From the starting point right now, the Cardinals just didn't seem like they were caring that much about Cliff Kingsbury. They really weren't winning it for him. That's what it felt like going to this game, is that if they would have won this game, it wasn't really going to be made for like head coach. Zach Ertz had 8 catches for 75 yards. Hollywood Brown had 6 catches for 68 yards. George had 4 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown. AJ Green had 3 catches for 16 yards. He's really declined. Let's be honest right now at this point. I mean, everybody thought because last year he was great. He had a much better start than what he's getting this season, but it's too early. But he is not good anymore. He's reached his ceiling. He's reached his peak here, and he's peaked. He's reached it, and he peaked it all in the same day. So I can't really get mad at him for it. You can't blame the guy. It happens. Old age hits you pretty quickly, even though he's 35 years old. I mean, it was not a good performance at all. This was not a good performance by the Arizona Cardinals wide receivers 2 weeks in a row. Ertz had a better game this time around here. No one could stop him, but it's just, I don't know. I expected better. Buffalo, all you need to know about this game was that Stephon Diggs scored 3 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns in the game. He had 12 catches for 148 yards, 3 touchdowns. Josh Allen had 26 for 38, 317 yards and 4 touchdowns. This was all about Stephon Diggs in the game, though. All about Stephon Diggs. And I got to say, the only touchdown that he had other than Reggie Gilman, who got an 11-yard touchdown pass, the fullback, they couldn't cover anybody in this team. It was almost impossible at this point. Ryan Tannehill did know better. He had 11 for 20, 117 yards, 2 interceptions. Also threw a pick 6 in there, 43 yards for Milano to return it. Bills win 41-7. Derrick Henry got a 2-yard run. And Derrick Henry really didn't do much in this game, if we're going to really be honest here. 13 carries for 25 yards. He was shut down in this game. Malik Willis was in there at one point, went 1 for 4 for 6 yards. Look, you put him in there at a really bad time. You did. This may be the question I'm going for. Is it time for Malik Willis to shine? Is it time for him to start? And I'm thinking right now, after what I watched here, look, you played great the week before. You only lost by 1 point. Here you get killed by 24 or 34. Sorry, not 24, 34. Is it time to pull up? No. As bad as a performance that was, he went for 11 for 20 here, 117. They ran the ball more than he threw it here. And I got to say here, this was actually the downfall here, the game plan here, is, I mean, if you go through the exact same game plan over and over and over and over again, it's not going to work. You threw the ball 35 times last week against the Giants, and you only ran the ball really, 25, 28 times? Here, you threw the ball 24 times, and you ran the ball nearly 30 times in the game. You did that before against Buffalo all those times. They were going to be able to figure it out. And you also got Von Miller. Why would you run against Von Miller, number one? Number two, why would you expose Derrick Henry in the corners here? Why would you go through the exact same motions here when you know that Von Miller is good around the edge? I just think that was bad game planning here. Mike Vrabel did not do a good job game planning this. He should have expected more. I mean, especially when Buffalo the week before, and by the way, played on a Thursday night and had a nice little day off. It's their home opener. You got to have Tannehill play better. And you have Tannehill throw the ball more. I thought really it was embarrassing, this game planning here, to just think like, you know what, we got Derrick Henry here, we're fine. Then why just sign Ryan Tannehill for a big contract? I just don't get that logic there. Really, the game plan, what really came down to it, was that Stephon Diggs was going to be uncoverable. I mean, to get 12, really what was crazy here was this, is he was targeted 14 times and he got the ball 12 times. Knox had 4 catches for 41 yards. Isaiah McKenzie had 2 catches for 37 yards. Gilman had 2 catches for 17 yards. Crowder had a catch for 16 yards. I mean, they all came to play. And you had fumble issues too. You got, at one point, Tennessee fumbled the ball twice in the game. They had 4 turnovers in this game. And all I got to say about this game was that, other than the 2 interceptions you got last week, you forced 4. You have 6 turnovers as a team this season. So that's great. Tampa, I believe, had forced 4 or 5 turnovers in their game against the Saints. And the week before, I believe they forced 3 or 4 turnovers against the Cowboys. So they have, I believe, now 7, I think. So they're on top of Buffalo. But Buffalo and Tampa right now got the 2 number 1 ranked defenses right now. That shows you a lot going in for Buffalo. And really, when you have 226 yards by the end of the first half right now, you know you're going to win the game. That's what Josh Allen had before the end of the half. But this was a slaughter. This was a no contest. This wasn't even close. Really, it came down to the first drive when Buffalo had the ball here. And this is going to be a common theme right now for Buffalo and for anybody who faces them. Don't give them the ball first. It's just common sense. Don't give them the ball first. It made no sense here why they got the ball first in this game, why you thought that was a great idea. They tried going for our 4th down. I think they were at their the Tennessee 31 here. They were trying to go for a pass play on 4th and 1. I didn't agree on that call. I think you could have ran it there on a sweep play. Get around the edge there. It would have just been interesting, It was one hell of a finish to a drive like that, and you could have gotten another touchdown that same quarter. It could have been 24-7 at the end of the half here instead, and it could have been 48-7. You could have gotten Josh Allen with 5 touchdowns in the game. It just all the way around, it was a good game for Buffalo defensively. They completely dominated the line. They got to Ryan Tannehill in this game. They sacked him twice in the game. They knocked him over a bunch of times in this game. It was just there was really a few times there, but you get my point. I mean, coverage-wise, Elam was good in this game, so there was no doubt about that one. Much better than what he was the week before. But yeah, Buffalo's 2-0. They face Miami next week. That's going to be a really great game. A lot of people were thinking that Buffalo and Miami would be game of the year just based on who the opponents were going to be going to the game. I just don't think that's the case anymore now. I think Miami and Baltimore may have just topped it. So I just think that it's going to be really hard to top at this point going forward. Vikings Eagles, Kirk Cousins once again not so good on the primetime game. Jalen Hurts went 27 for 31, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 333 yards throwing the ball. Kirk Cousins 27 for 46, 221 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Led in rushing in the game. Adam Thielen ran it receiving as well here. Justin Jefferson had 6 catches for 48 yards, was targeted 12 times. Thielen had 4 catches for 52 yards. Kirk Cousins got absolutely obliterated in this game. The offensive line could not protect. He got hit 7 times in the game, and he got sacked twice in the game. It was not good. He got pressured throughout the entire game. It was not good. Adam Thielen at one point going in the fourth quarter had 1 catch for 9 yards. That's how bad it was. Justin Jefferson only had about 4 catches going in the fourth quarter. It was not good. Not a good start for the Vikings. And Dalvin Cook in the game had 6 carries for 17 yards. This was a total domination from the Philadelphia defensive side of the ball. This was the best defensive game I've ever seen Philadelphia play. And it hasn't been, and it's been over 5 years since we've seen a really good Philadelphia defensive game plan here. Darius Slay had 2 interceptions in the game. He had 4 tackles in the game. He was probably the best defensive player throughout the entire game here as far as the defensive side of the ball goes, along with Anthony Maddox and TJ Edwards. It was really all about them in this game. Realistically here, no one's going to stop this team. 5 pass deflections in this game. A couple of tackles. 2 interceptions here. I mean, this was a complete, and actually, I think he had 3 interceptions in the game. Now the more I even think about it, I think he did have 3. 3 interceptions in one game. That was insanity. That's all I got to say. It was, you cannot game plan any better than what Philadelphia did against Minnesota here. It was phenomenal. Next week, they got the test right now against the Washington Commanders. It's going to be a defensive struggle, I think. But I think Washington still may come out of this. I can still see an upset with this game. Because I think Philadelphia is good. I mean, I think they are. I think they're for real. I thought they were really a fraudulent team just based on the fact that they allowed 35 against Detroit. But I was thinking to myself, well, shit, it's Jared Goff. By the way, the Lions so far in the first 2 games have scored 71 points. And they have allowed 60, I believe it's 65, I think the number would be at this point. So the defense needs a lot of work in Detroit. As far as Philadelphia goes, they allowed 35 points and they allowed 7 points. They've allowed 42 points in a grand total here. And they've scored in a grand total of 62 points. So the 20-point differential there in the point spread there for them. Dante Jackson was taken to a hospital. He was knocked out by a player. He had a neck injury. All indications that the Bills defensive back avoided a major neck injury after he left the game in an ambulance. Was carted off the field. A lot of crazy injuries that happened over the weekend here. It was a wild week, too. It really was. Back-to-back weeks of a wild NFL week, too. If I had to say right now the first 2 weeks right now were wild here, I'm going to say right now they were absolutely freaking wild here. It was incredible to watch. I thought every game was shocking here. And also didn't recap the Bears-Packers game, so I apologize there. I actually just forgot to recap that game. All you know is that Aaron Rodgers is back. He never left the building. This is also a wild start there. The Bears really almost came back and won this game. I mean, they were close here. They tried to go for it on 4th down here. They were in shotgun. They couldn't get in the end zone. They were stopped at the 1. All it really came down to was that Aaron Rodgers is just being Aaron Rodgers. 19 for 25, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Aaron Jones had 15 carries for 132 yards in the game for a touchdown. And St. August went off and had 3 catches for 93 yards. It's a low number for catches, but he didn't go off. Dave Montgomery had 15 carries for 122 yards. St. Brown had 2 catches for 39 yards for the Bears. Justin Fields in this game, 7 for 11, 70 yards, 1 pick. Not a good game for Justin Fields. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's been going on with him lately. You've combined so far to throw the ball 15, complete 15 passes and throw the ball 28 times in 2 games. And a grand total, you've gained 192 yards in 2 games. Justin Fields is running out of time. I know it's his second year at this point, but you can't play like that in a division rivalry game. You can't play like that and expect things to go your way. And really, the offensive line really wasn't a problem in this game. I thought really that it was the play calling in this game for Matt Alvarez was questionable. I thought really the fact that he only threw the ball 11 times in this game was questionable. The fact that Darnell Mooney was shut down in this game, 1 catch for -5 yards. This was not a good game at all. It was not good. Let's put it that way. Rodgers had a fumble at one point in the game. Other than that one little hiccup there, it was not much to say. Actually, Rodgers fumbled it twice, I guess, apparently, and recovered it. So there you go. Other than that, it was just really just the game of the fumbles here and 1 lost fumble there. It never really led to anything really, other than that touchdown drive. I think was it a touchdown drive? It was a field goal, I believe. I don't know. Or maybe, actually, no. I think it led to a punt for the Bears because they couldn't capitalize. But yeah, that is the NFL recap there. Week 3 next week. We'll see the Steelers versus the Browns. You have the Ravens versus the Patriots, Packers versus the Bucks, Texans versus the Bears, Raiders versus the Titans, Chiefs versus the Colts, Bills versus the Dolphins, Lions versus the Vikings, Bengals versus the Jets, Eagles versus the Commanders, Saints versus the Panthers, Jaguars at the Chargers, Rams at the Cardinals, Falcons at the Seahawks, and the 49ers are at the Broncos. In Monday Night Football, you have Cowboys versus the Giants. And also for Thursday Night Football, which I forgot to mention, which I did mention that. Yeah, okay. So we're all set there. I'm going to get a little quick on NCAA football. You already know about most of the scores that already had happened by this point now anyway, but the later scores you may not know about. Within the top 25, there was only really one upset, Michigan State losing by the final of 39-28. Florida was able to win 31-28. Clemson won 48-20. Texas beat University of San Antonio 41-20. The other scores I already did tell you about the mid-cap in that game. Arkansas won 38-27. Tennessee won 63-6. North Carolina State beat Texas Tech 27-14. Pitt beat Western Michigan 34-13. Texas A&M pulled up the upset over Miami 17-9. So I guess there was 2 upsets there. USC won 45-17, and Utah beat San Diego State 35-7. So USC beat Fresno State, and Utah beat San Diego State. Other than that, there really wasn't that much else to tell for most of these games. It was just you got what you got coming out of this week. Saturday, we're very telling here. Clemson versus Wake Forest, Florida versus Tennessee, Texas versus Texas Tech is the part of the triple header of great games here that people want you to watch here right now. That's why the top 3 ones here. Texas going in 22nd ranked, Florida is 20th ranked, Tennessee's 11th ranked. Tennessee's 11-point favorites over the Florida Gators. And I'm going to tell you this right now, and I never go with Tennessee to win these games. I think Tennessee Volunteers beat the Florida Gators, and they are no longer ranked. I thought Tennessee was going to lose for sure here, but I'm thinking right now Tennessee's going to pull up the win here. It keeps their momentum going. And I think Tennessee might be in the top 5 of the next week. That's my take. Clemson, I think, loses to Wake Forest, which is why I think that ends up happening here. So that's my upset of the week this week. Clemson has 7-point favorites. I just think Wake Forest is more of a threat right now to Clemson right now. And I think DJ Ugalia, this is a big testament for him, especially in the ACC. Like, you need to win this next week. And I just don't think he can do it. I'm sorry. I don't think he can do it. Texas versus Texas Tech. I think Texas wins next week here. I think Texas Tech is kind of a fraudulent team. They're not going to go in and lose to North Carolina State and then beat Texas later on. I'm just sorry. I don't believe that. Don't believe that to be true. Wisconsin versus Ohio State next week. Ohio State 17-point favorites. I mean, they're at home. So what do you think? Ohio State's going to win. Georgia's going to beat Kent State. You got Maryland versus Michigan next week. Both teams going in at 3-0. Michigan 16.5-point favorites. They'll get the win. Penn State's playing Central Michigan. Penn State will stay undefeated. They'll go 4-0. Baylor versus Iowa State. I'm going to say this right now about Iowa State here. I think they will pull up the upset here. I'm going to call this right now. Baylor loses to Iowa State, and Clemson loses in week 4. See, those are my two upsets right there. Okay. I just think Baylor's not that good this year. They're not the same team as last year. I always say it's more of a dangerous team. They're a dangerous wild card in this whole thing. They're underrated, in my opinion. They're a really good football club. I mean, to shut down Iowa the way they did in that game, I thought was excellent. They've got an excellent defense here, and I think they'll do the same thing to Baylor. I think they'll hold them to 15 or 16 points, I think, realistically here. So, Rhode Island Rams versus the Pittsburgh Panthers here. This was a very interesting spread here for this because they're calling us even. Totally different conference. So Pitt's not in the same conference as them, so that's kind of surprising that they're going in there as an even brand here, and it looks even at this point with the two teams. Surprisingly here, it's not look like it's going to change either. I know it's only Tuesday, but it does look like it's going to be an interesting one here. Here's my take on the whole thing: is that I'm not going to pick Pitt here because I'm looking at Slovis here, and I'm looking at the first couple of games here. And Rhode Island and Pitt are just dead even here with the run game here. Now, the reason Pitt's favored here because they're at home is an ACC opponent against a CAA conference, which CAA, I couldn't even tell what the hell I even stood for. But URI is a very interesting ball club here. As crappy as the quarterback is throwing the ball here right now, he does have a lot of yards. And he's kind of like a resemblance of Trey Lance a little bit. A gadget quarterback who's got a cannon of an arm but can't manage to keep it manageable. And he's not a game-managing quarterback, which URI has had now for decades. So, in my opinion here, in this whole thing, is I can't really imagine URI not winning this game. Because here's why. Because now at this point, and it's almost dead even here, the opponents here. Like, you can literally look at this right now and say that this is dead even here. Most of the time, right now, it looks like a runaway here. URI might pull up the upset. I think the University of Rhode Island is going to pull up the upset in Pittsburgh. Now, people are going to look at me and they're going to say you're nuts for thinking this. It might be a blowout here. I could be wrong here. It could be 58-7. It could be 58-0. It could be 28-0. But I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking about it in my head. I'm thinking to myself, URI just lost to Delaware at home by 21 points. And URI, by the way, was favored to win this game. Now, URI has pretty much been the underdog here throughout the start of the season, which is kind of insane to think about. I mean, they weren't favored against Bryant. They weren't favored. I mean, they were favored by only – actually, they were even at some point with Stony Brook here. Really, I think realistically right now, they've gone – now, this will be the fourth week now they would be going into this game. And an even spread here. And I think the secret here to Rhode Island's success right now here is keep it quiet. Look what happened last year when they went on the Patriots plane last year. They weren't so good afterward, were they? They were kind of fraudulent. Pittsburgh right now this year, fraudulent team in my opinion in the ACC. They have a fraudulent quarterback system. They don't really have a good system when it comes to their quarterback here. Slovis being the star right now. I expect more out of this guy as a starting quarterback, especially for a guy who just transferred from USC. The running back's been stealing the show right now. The only problem with him is that I don't believe in him. Sorry, I just don't. He looks like a number 2 running back to me on this team. There's not a lot of star potential coming out of this game thinking like, oh, they're going to have a breakout game here. I just don't see it. So I think URI pulls up the upset on the road in Pittsburgh, and I think URI goes 3-1 here, as crazy as it sounds. Middle Tennessee versus Miami here. Look, Miami's 26.5 point favorites. Miami's going to win this game. I mean, they're going to torch Middle Tennessee State here. Washington State versus Oregon here. I'm going to say this right now about Oregon. I think Bo Nix is back. I think Oregon has figured their stuff out. They went in there and had a huge game against BYU. I can't see them losing to Washington State here and going 2-2 after this game. I just can't see it. So I'm going to Oregon win here. Tulsa versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss right now 16th ranked. Ole Miss is going to pull the win out there. Kentucky's going to beat Northern Illinois at home. They're 8th ranked. Arkansas versus Texas A&M. This will be an interesting game. I think realistically right now, I think Texas A&M has it figured out kind of. But I think Arkansas with their rush attack and their quarterback play here right now, and that's maneuvering the ball. And plus, I think Jefferson is a much better quarterback anyway than King. So he's going there with nerves, and right now this is a big-time game. Statement when it has to happen for Texas A&M. They feel like they belong. Arkansas needs this more. So Arkansas is going to pull off the win here. And Alabama's going to beat Vanderbilt. Alabama 40-point favorites. Alabama still ranked number 2. UConn versus North Carolina State. I mean, forget about it. North Carolina State's going to kill UConn. UConn's got no purpose anymore. North Carolina State by the way ranked 12th. Oklahoma 6th ranked will take on Kansas State. Oklahoma will win. 7th ranked USC will beat Oregon State. BYU 19th ranked will beat Wyoming. They're 22-point favorites. Now, this is the highlight here because of this weekend here, only for the Pac-12, only because of the firing that took place for Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards in the Arizona State Sun Devils, are 1-2 this year. Herm Edwards as a coach is 26-20. I did make mention that he did get fired here. I don't know why they fired him. To me, I thought it was a dumb move. I thought it was a ridiculous move at this point. I think it's kind of idiotic that they fired him towards the end of the season here. It made no sense. I expect really the Sun Devils to fail in this game. Utah is going to kill them in this game. I think Herm Edwards had him figured out here, had this team figured out, and had Utah figured out. But, they want to be dumb about this whole thing. I don't know what led to his firing. Maybe because they got rid of the quarterback who sucked, I think, realistically, and they got another second quarterback. But I don't blame that on Herm Edwards. I really don't. So I don't know why they got rid of him. But, hey, you know what? I'm not Arizona State, so can't figure that team out. 18th ranked Washington, who did pull off the upset against Michigan State, winning 39-28, will be playing Stanford. They'll get the win. They'll go 4-0. You can argue right now that it may come down to Washington and USC for the Pac-12 championship. Washington and Utah will be playing later on in the season right now. I think Washington can beat them. I mean, if they can beat Michigan State and expose Mel Tucker in their defense here, they can do this to Utah. Utah doesn't have that much of a great defense either. So they're kind of fraudulent because they've had fraudulent opponents for the last 2 weeks here that are no competition. So that's that. The only upsets I really picked here coming out of this weekend here really is Rhode Island over Pitt, Iowa State over Baylor, and Wake Forest over Clemson. I just think realistically, like that Wake Forest at home is better. I'm not sure why Clemson's a favorite in this game. Don't ask me why. Clemson's already 1-0 in ACC conference play. DJ Ugali, despite his struggles right now, is throwing 57 for 88, 662 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. It's a little bit better, but I just think to myself, he's not that good. And in a high-pressure game against Wake Forest in their town, against their defense, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm just not convinced by it. I'm not convinced by it at all, just simply because of what they've had, what they've done at this point. So it's just – I'm not sure what's going on today with my Facebook today. I'm not sure if there's a thing on here. Because I was on top of the possible return of Urban Meyer right now. And we also got some hockey news we got to get into on the show here. Yeah, realistically here, and this is also another thing as well. I forgot to mention this according to CBS Sports. For the first time over the weekend, the Jets, the Giants, the Mets, and the Yankees all won on the same day on Sunday for the first time since 2009. Joe Flacco with a comeback down by 14 against the Browns, or I should say down by 13 against the Browns. The Giants won. They had a rally to get back. They were only down by 3, but they were rallying to get back to win by 3. And the Yankees and Mets dominated. The Mets look like they're going to be winning the NL East at this point. The Yankees look like they're going to win the AL East at this point. We could see a Mets-Yankees World Series this year. You never know. We could see a Jets-Giants Super Bowl this year. I'm just kidding. That's not going to happen. But, I mean, anything could happen at this point. New York right now is rocking on all cylinders. They're making things happen. And, yeah, that's it. That's all you really need to know about that particular thing. Report went out. This is according to Bleacher Report. Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans was suspended for 1 game for his fight with Marshawn Lattimore. And it was also fined, but not an amount right now that has not been disclosed to us. They were able to sign Cole Beasley as of this morning, so that came in my timeline this morning. So Cole Beasley is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. That may help Tom Brady. Tom Brady was furious about finding out about the suspension for Marshawn Lattimore, was not happy that Mike Evans did that. So he got punished here right now. It did not make Tom Brady happy here, hearing that his number 1 wide receiver got suspended. And it is his number 1 wide receiver. You can say Godwin is turning into a number 1. In reality, as long as Tom Brady's on that football field, Mike Evans is number 1. I don't know if Godwin will be back in this game. He was expected to miss a few weeks here. He might be still out in the game right now against the Packers. So you're down to Cole Beasley possibly, and probably that's it. I mean, Brashard Perriman maybe, and Julio Jones if he's healthy. But if he's not healthy, then it's just Perriman and Cole Beasley and Scotty Miller. So it's not looking good for Tampa Bay offensively, but defensively they're striking on all cylinders. They're getting to the quarterback. They're hitting the quarterback hard. They're bringing down Winston right now. And Levante David had some things to say. I think was it Devin White? Was it Devin White that said it? I can't remember who said it. But he basically just buried a lead here in this whole thing. I actually may look that up right now because I'm actually more curious now than ever here right now of who said what he said. But they said that was not happy about the 30 interceptions that, it just was not happy about him throwing those interceptions. And I think if I can find the article here, I can't really find it here. And we also got some bad news for Bruce Arians. I was going to lead out the lead here with this saying right now that Bruce Arians should come back to coach right now for Tom Brady. But I'm just getting this right now on the fly right now. So here it is. This is according to Black and White Sports. As the NFL investigates his role in the Bucs Saints brawl. So apparently he may have a role into allowing Mike Evans to do what he did. And apparently they did allow it here because I did watch the replay of that. And the first thought that popped in my head was that Mike Evans did say, go get him. And the one of the coaching staffs were pissed at Bruce Arians afterward. In fact, he said, what the bleep? And turned right around and screamed at Bruce Arians. So right now, because of this happening right now going forward, it may end up looking like Bruce Arians could be suspended or fined here for this whole thing. The NFL is investigating how to punish in this whole thing right now. Did it really happen? I watched it happen. I can tell you live exactly what happened in that game. Mike Evans said, go get him. Bruce Arians said, go get him. The other guy flipped out. Marshawn Lattimore punched Leonard Fournette in the face. And I think Lattimore said something to Brady, and I think Brady lost his cool. I think Brady finally showed emotion in this game and finally showed anger in the game. He showed more anger in the Saints game than he showed in the Dallas Cowboy game when he played somewhat decent in that game. Look, I got to be honest here at this point going forward. Lattimore may have said something to the lines of, the whole Giselle thing. That's probably what happened in this game. And Brady snapped at Lattimore. I thought for a minute Brady was going to throw a punch because it looked like he was clenching his fist there. But Mike Evans just basically gave it like a John Cena shoulder tackle there, WWE style. Really, at the end of the day, there was no need for it. I don't know why Bruce Arians did what he did here. I did not find out about this until now, that Bruce Arians may be under investigation here. It could be looking like now he could be losing his job here. It may look like that as a senior advisor, or even worse, probably suspended for 2 years. I mean, for this, I don't think it should be that much, but for a senior advisor to the general manager here, it's not looking good. Now, I would have given him an assistant head coach a simple fine maybe, but you're in a higher role on the team. You're no longer a coach on this team. Now, granted, he should go back to coaching this team because realistically, Todd Bowles just sucks. You want my honest opinion about his play calling skills at this point, trying to help out Tom Brady? He's not as better as Bruce Arians. I'm sorry, he's not. At least Bruce Arians was a quarterback whisperer. Now, Bruce Arians might have gone towards the deep end with this whole thing, which pissed Brady off, but at least he's got some keys to the castle here for success. Todd Bowles really doesn't. So, I think Bruce, but now at this point, if this is true, I mean, if the NFL is really doing investigating on this whole thing, this may have actually just cost his chance of coaching, period, going forward, or being another advisor next year. This may actually cost Bruce Arians his job at the end of the year. May even cost his job now. He may get fired for this. And if he does, I'll do a Sports Flash update on the story. I'll get you more on the detail in that one now. So this kind of makes me wonder now at this point what the hell's going to end up happening now. So with this whole thing. Not the only thing I wanted to talk about on here to that. I want to get back towards the college football. Head coaching vacancies have opened up at this point due to Scott Frost's firing here and Herm Edwards' firing. Now, I don't know where the Herm Edwards firing even came from here. I don't know why he got fired, but apparently it happened. Was not the best thing to hear at all, hearing about this happening here now going forward. And look, it's bizarre. But this is according to CBS Sports right now of who the candidates are for the Arizona State head coaching job. Not for Nebraska, by the way, which begs the question right now at this point, if I'm going to lead back towards the Scott Frost area for a second, should it be Urban Meyer? Yeah, Urban Meyer should go back and coach Nebraska, in my opinion. I don't see why he doesn't. He's a coach deep in heart here. He deep down wants to go coach for college football here. He knew how to keep his cool when it came to college players. When it came to professional players, he wanted me to head honcho because he realistically thought in his mind that he could do the same thing in college. Now, I don't think he was kicking players in college football or saying racist, remarkable things or going to strip clubs and making it rain on strippers. But I think realistically, you could argue right now that Urban Meyer is the perfect coach for Nebraska. It could cause a rebirth here for the Big Ten for Nebraska because it doesn't look like Notre Dame's going to go to Big Ten anytime soon. And it doesn't look like Nebraska's going to lead the Big Ten anytime soon. You could argue right now that I think realistically, Urban Meyer is the perfect candidate for this job. I do have the clip of the fact that Urban Meyer got like a "We Want Urban" chant in Nebraska before the Oklahoma-Nebraska. This was during the pregame of that chant happening. And I think it was excellent because you could argue right now that Scott Frost had wasted so many years in Nebraska. I mean, they completely just wasted all that time. Nebraska wasted all that time. It was just sad, really, of how, desperate they are when it comes to basically wanting to win. And in reality, it's just wanting to get Urban Meyer to coach here. And I think they need a coach like Urban Meyer anyway. Urban Meyer is a successful college football head coach. Now, is it going to happen now going forward? Maybe. Maybe it will happen. I think it will happen. I think it will happen here. I don't see how it doesn't. And it will probably hype up the Nebraska
Coach. We want to for you. We want you to.
So that was during the pregame show on Saturday because Scott Frost got fired that past Tuesday. So, look, I think, it was a Sunday during the NFL season. I'm sorry, it was during that Sunday. So, Urban Meyer might get a job out of this. So, it's all good at this point. It really is all good. But here are the coaching candidates right now for. Because it's basically well decided at this point that he'll be the head coach. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened in December of this year that he gets hired as a head coach. But according to the CBS Sports right now, they're saying right now the candidates right now for the Arizona State job goes as follows: Matt Rule, Carolina Panther head coach; Brian Leftwich, Tampa Bay offensive coordinator; Dan Mullen, ESPN analysis; Todd McGowan, Georgia offensive coordinator; Hugh Freeze, Liberty head coach; Brian Harsin, who may be getting fired by Auburn at the end of the year because they are basically just he's going to be the next one fired in this thing. I don't know why he's sixth in this whole thing. I don't even know why he's above Deion Sanders. Couldn't tell you why. But Deion Sanders is in that conversation. Tom Herman, CBS Sports Network analyst. Way too long for this guy to be a head coach at this point. I think he'd be out of touch here, so I don't think he's really a good candidate for this whole thing. Mike Norvell, Florida State head coach. Justin Wilcox, the California head coach. Rick Newell, 61-year-old, lives in Phoenix area. He has a CBS Sports network analysis right now. He does have his West Coast ties. He doesn't necessarily fit the Anderson profile of a young hire. We've got a solution. This is according to the CBS Sports right now. Arizona State is going to need something unique as it is likely to go on NCAA probation. It also needs to stand aside. Crow is an overbearing presence, overflipped on Edwards, and a heartbeat, split the baby in two, and make Nunzo associate head coach and offensive coordinator for the new guy. Rick Nunzo, I think, is better than, I would say, the top 5 of these guys right here in the lower 10 to the top 10 here. I think Deion Sanders should be number 6 in that whole conversation. Look, if you want my honest opinion, Arizona State's under investigation, I guess. I guess they're going to be on probation soon. I guess that they're going through the same treason right now with USC, what they went through when they had to strip Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy and all that, But I think realistically, it'll be interesting here to see what happens now going forward. I guess the investigation has something to do with Herm Edwards, I guess, and his coaching style, I guess. I don't know what the story is now going forward. I'm not sure why they're going under probation right now, but apparently they are going under probation. But yeah, this looks like now it's going to be very telling here. If I had a prediction right now of what's going to end up happening here, here's my prediction. I think Brian Leftwich might leave an NFL job as an offensive coordinator. Now, I think realistically Brian Leftwich will probably end up getting the job over Matt Rule. I think he will. I think Brian Leftwich can connect with more of these guys in Arizona State. And I think Deion Sanders here, and don't be surprised by this if this keeps Tom Brady around even longer here. But if Brady doesn't win this year, who knows? I don't think he'll go out as a loser here. I just, I have a hard time believing that he would retire after losing a Super Bowl. I just have a hard time believing it. But hear me out here. What if Deion Sanders takes over the role here at this point? What if he does? What if Deion Sanders takes over the role here at this point as a offensive coordinator for the Bucs? Because I think realistically he can do it. I think he can do it. He's watched Tom Brady for years. I just think Jackson State and any coaching job at this point is overrated at this point. I think John Gruden is going to get his job back in the NFL. I really think he will. Todd Bowles, I think, is going to go somewhere else. I think Todd Bowles, I wouldn't be surprised if Todd Bowles left and going to go coach college. That just wouldn't surprise me. Justin Wilcox is on his way out anyway from Cal anyway, so whether or not he gets fired or he just steps down, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Todd Bowles goes back to college and coach there. Marcus Freeman at this point, the head coach for Notre Dame, he may be on his way out. That could go down to Bruce Arians at this point if he is done for the year or gets fired for letting this happen. My first thought was that Bruce Arians wasn't on the football field during week 1. He was there during week 2. He was there for trouble. This guy is looking for trouble at this point. And you could tell that Bruce Arians let that happen. So I would not be surprised if he got suspended for the entire year and possibly fired by the end of it. So that's it. I forgot to mention this stat the other day in the NFL. I just wanted to bring this out here. Amon-Ra Brown, I believe his name is, had 174 total yards and 2 touchdowns for the Lions on Sunday. He's gone now 8 straight games with at least 8 straight catches. I think it tied for a record. I think he goes for 9th next week. He could break the record here. That'd be great. And I think he'll break the record next week. So I wanted to mention that stat as well as mentioning this news. David Price plans to retire at the end of the 2022 season. He says, quote, "Everything on my body hurts." So he either may go out as a champion or lose in the division or championship series. Pick your poison if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers. PK Subban announced his retirement today from hockey today. The 33-year-old veteran saying he's moving on to better things. He needs a change in his life, so he's going to do that. He won the Norris Trophy back in 2013. The former New Jersey Devil has announced his retirement from the NHL at the 13th season, along with Zedenyo Chara. After 25 seasons, he's finally hanging up the ice skates. Will sign a one-day contract to retire as a Boston Bruin. He spent his last year as a New York Islander. He did win a playoff series against the Bruins, ironically, but I guess he was not that great the next year. So, but yeah, let me just put this in perspective. I think Chara should have retired 3 years ago. I think the guy going out in the Stanley Cup final with your team, yes, it was a losing effort, but it was an effort nevertheless. That was the way to go. I don't see how he didn't retire there, and he's retiring only now at this point. Look, he signed a one-day contract with the Bruins. He was a long-time defensive guy, hard-hitting guy, big guy, gets in your grill, nails the crap out of you. That's the way to do it. I think this was a great move here. It was a smart move here to let this play out the way it played out. I think realistically here, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for the Bruins here now going forward. Now knowing now that Chara's going to retire here, how this is going to play out. We'll see what happens now going forward here. I just can't imagine realistically the Bruins really taking this guy back or convincing him to come out of retirement. If that happens, this team will be a laughingstock and they'll miss the playoffs this year with that. Chara was kind of the main reason why the Islanders missed the playoffs last season. His play kind of affected the whole regime all the way around. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, I just can't see how it doesn't. But, I can't see how the Bruins try to convince this guy to come out of retirement and play 5 more seasons. I mean, I just think right now this point, because the Bruins right now they're not in the right frame of mind at this point. So, hearing this announcement probably shocked them the most right now. They'll be all emotional. Like if Chara announced his retirement like 3 or 4 months before this, I'd say, great. But this is like a month before the season right now, so it's going to get a lot of Bruin fans emotional. It's like, oh my God, we missed this guy so much. Now he's going to retire with us right now. And I mean, all this big hoopla. It's like, all right, this guy retired way too soon. Anyway, that's it. That is all. So I'm going to wrap the show up with that.
Hey, I'm going out in a little while, so you need to call me.
Okay, I guess my dad's going to be going out in a little while. I don't know where that audio came from. But anyway, I'm going to wrap the show up with that. We will be back here on Saturday to do the show here. Mike will be here. And that'll be it for the show. Our social media trends here now going forward. That's it. You know the drill. See you later. I'm out.